If you're talking sports, it's the matchup. Mickey here with Zizzy. Are we cutting it up? Just a couple athletic enthusiasts. You know what it is. The Mickey Zizzy Podcast. Episode 6, Season 3 of the Mickey Zizzy Podcast. Bigger and better. Brought to you by Pinnacle Supplementation. Make sure you reach your pinnacle. Check out pinnaclesup.com. You already know what I'm talking about. Get your fitness, wellness, supplementation needs. And I'd be crazy not to shout out the main man who's just been balling. Check out his social media, man. I'm talking Grant Anderson, the YouTube sensation, G for 3, providing some great insight on what it takes to be a baller at this point. Out there crossing people up across the country is what it is. Check out his latest videos. It's going to be awesome. But I wouldn't be me. I am Zizzy. We know it. We know it. Zizzy Nation, stand up. But got to bring in the main man, Mickey Hines. What is going on, my guy?
I love move-in day. Oh, sorry, that's been on my chest, and I just needed to get it off, and I felt good. This will probably be the last YouTube video with this setup. We're gonna have a new area to do the podcast next video, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, so it's super exciting. It is Donut Saturday, and I'm actually getting my donuts today. I know I've been a little lax here the past 2 Saturdays. Got to rep the shirt from Kansas City. Got to rep the hat from Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, I'm going global. I'm going global with this Donut Saturday thing. So as you can tell, the vibes are immaculate here on a Saturday morning. Mickey Zizzy, get your coffee, get your energy drink. We're repping out here. Let's go.
Yeah, and we got a lot to talk about. I mean, we're getting back. It's an NFL season within 50 days, everybody. I mean, we're talking a lot to talk about. College football going to be back even sooner. We're going to be having some little discussions with that. But of course, we start every episode, person of the week. Who do you got, bud?
You know me, breaking rules per usual here. Obviously, I want to give a shout out.
What was the last time he didn't? Someone's got to tally it up.
Yeah, whoever our statistician is, we don't have one yet, but whoever that is, figure out what day it is. But my people of the week, first off, shout out our families for helping us move. You obviously have to throw that shout out in there, and everyone who's helped us pack and all that jazz. But I went to the dentist this week, Yank, and just shout out dentists. Like, honestly, that's a tough job to do. Like, a lot of people I don't like personally. It's like kind of scary. Like, I feel like they're judging me based on my teeth. But like, shout out them. They just poke stuff in people's mouths and like bleed everywhere and clean it and have to deal with like kids who like probably chomping at their supplies. So, you know, for all the dentists out there, thank you for keeping our teeth clean. And I just got a big morale boost. The dentist said my teeth look so much better than last time. I was like, let's go. Yes, improvement. So shout out to all the dentists out there in the world who are trying to make our teeth and our dental hygiene better.
I mean, I can't knock that. I mean, there was a point in time not that many years ago where I was walking around without a tooth. And then shout out Mount Vernon Family Dentistry, the day out there working. And I mean, I haven't gone to the dentist recently, but I need to because one,
there you go, your friend learning
teeth whitening, and two, yeah, I gotta make sure that thing's good to go. If I that's a moneymaker, man. You gotta be able to smile. But no, that's amazing. That is not where I expected it to go. But yes, absolutely. Shout them out. It's definitely a profession where I was like, I don't know if I want to be in people's mouths all day, man.
Legit.
Like, that's impressive. So shout out to all of them. For me, it was a birthday week, man. Like, there's a lot of birthdays going on. Shout out to my man Mickey Hines right here on the screen, having his birthday last week. But also, I mean, I always shout you out, man. So I couldn't do it this time. I couldn't do it. I had to shout out the other two, Brock Flack, Cheyenne. You know,
oh yeah,
so good to see them. Obviously, with the bachelor party and getting prepped for the wedding and all that. So just catching up, having those conversations was just, you can't ask for more. It's memories being made, funny stuff. I mean, ZYPD, I had to throw some money at Cheyenne's way to replace the phone, and he doesn't even have as good of a phone anymore. So, feel bad for that, but it's always something funny to talk about. And hope he had a great birthday. Saw that he was at the fake Disneyland with his family, so that's always great. Yeah, but And then Brock, same thing, just catching up, having the fun memories. I mean, even something as simple as the drives to Steak and Shake and stuff the morning after. I mean, I'm dying. He's cracking jokes and stuff the whole time after he just slept till noon. Like, it's all the small stuff, man. Making whirlpools in the pool. I don't
Oh
care. I'll
yeah.
act like a 15-year-old kid and love it with these guys. So, shout out to all the boys, and that's my people of the week.
Oh yeah. Like I said, this is sponsored by G for 3. Go check out his videos. I mean, he's going to Vegas, he's going to Florida, he's going to all these other places and just playing the sport of basketball, loving it, trying to influence the game. So shout out Grant for being he was our first interview this year, but a huge sponsor for the podcast. And also, Yank, I do want to say the allergies are through the roof right now. So this is my testament of my grit right now, podcasting while with kind of a stuffy nose and still sounding great. So don't mind me if I'm trying to blow the nose and whatnot for the people also listening. But, that's toughness right there on a Saturday morning.
Okay. All right. So he's already making excuses because he knows that he's going to say some dumb stuff in this episode. So, all right, we've got that out the way. I'm glad that your allergies are affecting your cognitive ability.
Not my cognitive, just my look, my overall, the sniffles and all that.
I mean, I do hear it. There's a little bit of a nasalness to the voice, but you're powering through. I see you. It's Donut Saturday. I've never seen someone with such great donut gear, but we'll move on and we'll do that. So where are we starting today? You want to go NIL? You want to go NFL?
So,
NIL? All right.
Yeah, so the NIL deal, the name, image, and likeness deal, that got set this past year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah, I want to say like full effect for the first time last season.
Yeah, we talked about this our first season of the Mickey Zizzy podcast, and you were in favor, and I was not in favor. And now that we have it, I do like some of the ways that they are doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I still disagree.
No offense.
I mean, but there's still no reason to be paying some 17, 18-year-old $800,000.
Okay.
Paying them over $100,000. Like, who needs that? So my thing is, I'm just gonna rip it off like a band-aid. Is like I was saying, I'm still against it, but the way some of the athletes are going about it is awesome. Like I've seen the Keegan Murray brand, like the kids wearing the shirts. Yeah, you should get paid for that. That's your name. You're making your business based on your area, right? You have the Patrick and Connor McCaffrey. They have their own podcast. Some place in Iowa City like is sponsoring them to have a podcast. Sweet. They're making money on the side. You have Tyler Linderbaum, who donated all of his NIL money to the Children's Hospital. I can't really say that's a bad idea, Yank, right? I really can't be against it. But now these student athletes are getting 5-figure deals, plus free room, plus free food, plus free schooling. Like, oh my goodness, like the time to be a college athlete is now. But Yank, I just want to hear your kind of first initial thoughts about it.
I mean, honestly, if you're talking about the 5-figure deals, and there's people that there's high school quarterbacks that have received $1 million payouts before they've even touched the practice field at their college facility, which is insane. But I mean, it's what I expected. The amount of money that the game of football just supplies, especially college football, with just the number of teams, the number of players. I mean, a lot of people love to say that it is more passionate, which I do believe. It's more emotional football. There's a lot more people. I think it has more fans just by the sheer numbers. Everyone loves college football, so it's going to generate that kind of money. We talk about how college football programs at schools will pay for the rest of the sports at that school. Like it's how this country operates when it comes to sports. So am I surprised by it? No. Does it necessarily need to happen? No, but it doesn't change how I feel about the NIL in general. I think that the NCAA had a lot of issues and a lot of gaps that had to be solved. There's a lot of ways in which they had taken advantage of collegiate athletes. So this is the NIL is a way to kind of counteract that. And now it's allowing. The only thing that's getting crazy is just the changing of teams, which we'll talk about. So
no, and that's the thing, Yank. You've kind of already segued into my next point with the NIL deals. Is It's free agency, Yank. The transfer portal is the free agency. I forget what coach said that, but it totally is. I think Kirby Smart was talking about it. I think it kind of came up. But that's how it is, Yank. If your recruiting is your free agency, you come into somebody's house, one of these 5-star athletes, say, you know what? I understand Alabama's offering you this, or they have these connections. My school, I'm connected with the Tom Brady brand. You can get this. We'll spot you $20,000 right out of the gate from this other local business for you to go sign a few autographs, right? That's Jackson State's example. No joke. I was looking up all these examples so that I have some, credibility to all these takes. I mean, that's pretty cool. And Jackson State's also partnered with Gatorade. Well, if you want to be repping Tom Brady brand plus some Gatorade stuff, like, kind of want to go there. But now that's Jackson State, so they're balling, right? Deion Sanders, Prime Time, Coach Prime, he's got those connections, right? But if you look at these other colleges, Bowling Green University, you have
Shower handle.
yeah, but these other smaller like MAC schools or these smaller like Arkansas kind of type of schools that aren't the head honchos in the SEC or the Big Ten, they're gonna lose so many recruits just because they're gonna pay me a little bit extra. Well, then, no, like I said, now it leads all the way back to free agency.
I don't think that every player is just going to go somewhere for a little bit more money because they're not going to get
I think majority.
substantial amounts more. I mean, if you're talking about the smaller schools. So NIL is going to drastically affect, if anything, the gap between these big power conferences and then the smaller schools, just because
100%.
we're talking about the amount of money they generate, the amount of money they can offer a player, the amount of incentives they can offer a player, the facilities, yada, yada, all that. However, since when were those really like smaller schools ever a true competitor for like the championship or college football playoff?
Gap's way too long
for those schools. But when you talk about the power conferences and all the other big schools, they all have similar money. They all have similar facilities. If not, some of the ones that haven't been winning have better facilities. They all have different connections, but they all have those next level connections in the NFL, the sponsorships. You have to. How the football coaches for the D1 college football programs were still making millions of dollars before the NIL. So like nobody was bothered about that. But now that the players are getting paid some money, it's like, oh, okay, watch it. Well, this is kind of all part of the whole thing, though. They had to be good at this type of stuff anyway. You still had to barter with what is it? The sponsorship program. What is it called usually? The booster program.
Booster.
You gotta partner with the booster program. You gotta work your way into relationships to get you funding for the football. Like they've all been doing this type of stuff already, so it's not really new to them. If anything, I love it because now you'll see more variations. I think in the actual championship winner. They're going to expand the playoff at some point because they're going to have to.
I don't like
teams switching. They're going to have to, but that'll give more people opportunities. One. And it will, even some of those smaller schools that don't get a chance are the ones that play really well, but they're like, oh, strength of schedule is so bad. Now they'll have a chance to at least get in the playoff and make some noise.
Hence, now we're turning to the NFL.
I'm just saying, you got that. And there's like Alabama, for instance, is always a perennial powerhouse winner, right? Nick Saban, 7-time national champion, most championships in college football D1 history. Now you hear him complaining a lot more recently because of all the rule changes and stuff like that, because it doesn't now just rely on tradition and history, because now there is the facilities that are even more important. There is the money grab that's more important. There is the recruiting aspect where it's not just like we're the champion every year, to where it's like other stuff really matters. So when you're looking at other Power 5 conferences or other power schools that are now switching conferences, whatever else, they all have more of a fair advantage or fair opportunity. They all do to have more of an opportunity to win a championship. So I think even though the gap between smaller and big schools will become larger, the variation in actual championship winners will increase.
Now that's a bold take, because I just think you're still going to have Clemson up there, Ohio State. You're going to have the Alabama. And now we're just talking about football, Look at basketball. North Carolina's still going to stay on top because they're still one of the top winning programs in the country. Kentucky, you still have Virginia, like all these other
Okay.
teams, Kansas.
Okay.
Like those teams are still get the same deal. So if this is strengthening these smaller schools or like schools that are close, on the brink of a championship, right? If they're on the brink, well, with this one NIL rule, doesn't that mean the teams up front are also going to propel themselves? Because, hey, guess what? That 5-star who was thinking about going to Clemson, ooh, come here. We got you. Check out this deal. Or am I wrong?
I mean, yeah, but that's still, like I said, like, it's the same thing when it could be with Alabama. Like, oh, you're going to Alabama? Well, what if we offer you that and I come over here and said, like, all of a sudden now we have like a shift in power,
For
shift in
free agency.
balance. I mean, yeah, I'll give it to you. It basically is a free agency. Like, if that's what you want to call it, then sure, I'll call it that. But do I think it's bad for the game? Not necessarily, because I think that there will be more variation in all the actual like big schools in general,
Okay.
rather than
So,
just one team that's always winning it.
so hear me out before I get to more of these crazy examples I've heard of the NIL deals. So you and me could be on this committee because we're going to come up with this
Mhm.
great plan. Like I said, I like how they've done it. Still kind of against it. Well, let's just put a cap, no pun intended, on the salaries. Make them only get 50 grand. I'll be generous. 50 grand. You're getting paid more than a teacher at this point for some of these games that are only on TV for twice a year, right? Like national ESPN TV, right? The primetime game. 50K for, your starting 22 for Oars football, football podcast, or like the starting 5 in basketball, and then lower those salaries. Like you can only hand out enough 50K contracts. Now it's an even playing field. Now they're getting paid. I think they're getting paid an awfully a lot for 50 grand a year, right?
I mean, I'm not arguing that. There
And
could
then get
be
that money from wherever.
there's just no it's so brand new. There's no regulations
But
on it,
that's
and
the
the NCAA
regulation.
is losing power by the day to govern anything. So,
Why is
um,
that a bad idea? I think
I
not.
don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I think if we were on the committee, I'd probably be right behind you on board with that, like trying to support that. But um, also, when you're talking about these guys that are getting these huge deals, like it's really these 5-figure deals really isn't anything to some of these schools or programs or teams or anything or sponsors or anything like that. So it's hard to put a number on it. It's hard to put regulations on it because we don't really even know who's governing everything at this point.
But that's why I
Um,
say if you put a cap there saying, hey, you can only make this amount. I know they're going to be under the table deals and whatnot,
of
which
course,
was quote unquote
it probably
happening
already was
fast.
beforehand.
Exactly. Like that's what, oh, so and so pays their players, da 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 da. Like we've heard all that drama, but now we can at least put a cap on it. So legally, all right, they can only get paid this much. Like you can make your brand, but you can only make them out this much. If you make your 50 grand for the year, gotta donate it to a charity. You gotta give it to, XYZ. Because sometimes they're probably gonna make a whole lot more money. I bet you
Yeah,
if Bryce Young
and
has his own
and it's
clothing
not
line.
even always going to have to be about the money. The great thing about the NIL is it's still the player's choice at the end of the day. Like you gave the great examples of the players that have taken the money and donated it to all the great
Yeah.
charities, all the great purposes. There's a lot of players out there that aren't just necessarily in it for them. They understand that their goal is the next level after that and make it a professional career, yada yada, all that. But also for the people that are so against it because of the tradition thing, these players are people. They can make their own. If they want to stick to tradition, if they really love a school because of its history and tradition, they can still go there.
Well,
And they'll still get deals. It might not be as big of a deal, but they're still going to get a solid piece of the pie. So I just don't see why everyone wants to complain because at the end of the day, I know there's influences and not everybody handles peer pressure and things like that outside of their circle as well. But people need to learn that. That's part of financial literacy. It's part of literacy, like knowing what you can and can't do and managing yourself when you get to the next level. It's a good skill for anyone to be taught and learned. I think it should be taught in schools and high schools and things of that nature. But I think it's the player's choice at the end of the day as well. And the NIL still allows for that opportunity.
100% it's their choice and they're trying to make this and that, but like Now what you're going to see is all these players rolling up in brand new cars because they just got a sponsor.
Good for them, man.
They're going to be chained out, all this kind of quote unquote drip. The suits are going to look insanely like for game days and whatnot. But like, do they need their college kids? What now? The student athlete part is out of the bag. They are pro athletes. They are being paid professionals, paid college.
I would like to know the effect. I would like to know the effect on the back end when it comes to the actual schooling and academic aspect of things, and like them being a student rather than just the athlete. I haven't heard or seen anything about that yet, but I'm sure it makes things a little bit different.
Zizzy, I understand like they don't go to school, like the professors pass them automatically. That stuff's happening at these bigger colleges. But like,
remember when North Carolina won the basketball championship and the one guy showed up to class the next day? It like made every sports page like, right. What is that not normal? We would have had a better class.
And that's the thing, though, is the student athlete is now taken away. Back in the day, you could not go to the Olympics if you got paid for that sport. That's why the NBA players couldn't participate in basketball. It had to be all the college kids, the people who they'd have tryouts, like way back when for the Olympics, because they had to be amateurs. Now, obviously, they can be professionals today. So now, paid professionals, paid people to play. That's no longer a student athlete in my mind. That's a paid professional. Now, some of those college players have no NIL deals. You're telling me the backup kicker or the third string quarterback, well, maybe at Alabama that might be, but third string quarterback at Iowa is going to have some huge NIL deal? No. So now, that's the thing.
Yeah, Alex Moran, man, you never know.
Right, he might. And then just the last thing about that is I heard it on some of the other shows talking about it, but like, can you imagine what we would have done? Oh, sorry, let my NIL deal pay for this tonight, fellas. We're gonna go out to some steakhouse, and when you talk about actually buying steaks,
conference, baby.
Right? No, you're telling me like, how the joke's always, oh, I want to buy steaks for my alignment. You bet I am tonight.
Dang right. I would have celebrated, but that's the thing though. I think we would have had more of the whole like group mentality with it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's the goal for a lot of players when they come into college or they're trying to make it to the league or they do make it to the league. It's not just for me, it's for the people that help bring me up. It's for my boy, it's all that. So I mean, obviously, we would have had a great time, and I think the Kia would have had some repairs done. Like we'd have been whipping it around and been all fine. But yeah, it is what it is. But
no, yeah.
Think about the real bright side of all this, Mickey. NCAA football 23 coming back in July. Dude,
I saw some emotional videos. It's like the guy holding the screen, like just bawling his eyes out, and it's like EA Sports. It's in the game. And it's just like when all the boys get on in July.
Oh, bro. When I tell you, I might call off work the next day.
Guess what? I'm on summer break for that whole week. I might not move. The rebirth, of course.
I don't care if I'll be 26 at that point. I will be gaming then.
Oh, 100%. I already do. But it's just crazy. Like, look at a lot of these other deals. Like, one of these Miami players getting $500 a month from this local gym. I mean, that's not bad when they all have to do is rep their brand shirts and do a commercial or two. You have supposedly Bryce Young's getting paid $800,000. That's what I came out of the gate with. That's absolutely insane. $800K. He's almost a millionaire, and he's played, 2 years in the NFL. And then that's more than I feel like some D3 colleges get. I don't think D3 colleges are millionaire industry. So that's just crazy as is. Which
it's gonna, like I said, the gap will be definitely real, but also not everyone's got that type of talent anyway. So they're always gonna get people. There's always gonna be people that go to play D2, D3. I mean, my favorite NIL sponsorship, the Coldest Crawford. I don't know if you know about the Coldest, the Twitter sensation. But the Coldest Crawford getting signed to a heating and cooling company, an air conditioning company, that is smart marketing, everybody. That is genius. And whoever decided to do that, you deserve an award. You deserve an award.
And we're talking a lot about these football players, but it's also really cool to see the gymnastic star Olivia Dune from LSU. She's getting paid $1 million. I mean, I guess she's a huge social media presence, and that's why they went to him. And for some brand, Ferrari, I probably said that wrong. I don't know the actual brand of it. But, that's insane amount of money to be making in college. But at least it's going to other sports besides football, because that was my big thing talking way back when. in our first season. Like, what about the other sports? There's some schools that football is atrocious, and basketball, gymnastics, tracks are their like MO. I think they should be getting paid more than these football players, right? If you're going to become a national championship in gymnastics, you better get paid the most in that school, you know? So, I mean, my closing remarks is about this topic is transfer portal is turning into free agency. Put a cap on it, like you have to make sure that it's, leveling the playing field, but still paying these athletes for their name, image, and likeliness. And at the end of the day, I think it still needs to get improved. It's only the starting point, but I am happy that they went about it this way instead of just giving a ton of money out to all these students. But like we said earlier, some of the ways that the students have been using their money has been awesome. And I just hope it gets better and doesn't create this huge bridge that we're talking about.
My take is I agree that they should try to regulate. I just do not believe that they have the capability to at this time.
Put us on the committee. We'll get it done.
Well, I mean, duh. I mean, they need our brain out there, obviously. But on top of that, like, I think the bridge is just inevitable, man. But it also is just like, it's not going to stop people from going to those smaller schools. They're still going to have to field people. There's still way, like, the number of high school players that there are compared to the number of college players that there are, that drops down significantly. So, I mean, there's always people that are trying to play. But I mean, this has all been inevitable. The transfer portal is a free agency of sorts. It's going to be interesting to watch. My biggest whole thing is just team relocation from conference to conference. You are going to lose some of that traditional stuff. You're going to create new rivalries, but it's more so how many, like, are we even going to have? Are we even going to have a, I don't know, conferences anymore? Like, is it just or are we gonna turn into, like you said, the NFL, to where it's just like two sides of the league and they just have people together? Because I mean, that's the amount of teams that are going to be in some of these conferences is wild.
Yeah, we've already talked about that. That's definitely gonna be another huge debate when college football rolls around or college sports rolls around. It's just like now you're turning it into a mega league, which kind of stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Yank, the NIL deal the debate has been awesome. I'm so happy that we're kind of still disagreeing and whatnot with it. And, those college athletes, go out and get yours. At the end of the day, like, if you're making your best that you can, like, obviously I'm not going to get too mad about it, but that's my personal takes about it. Now, as we transition here, just like Yank started the episode with, go visit Pinnacle Supplementation. Go reach your Pinnacle. They actually won the 2022 Bags tournament at Heritage Days, so they were repping Pinnacle hard, and they also were on the on other podcasts and whatnot, so go check them out. They're making you bigger and better as well. Now, each new episode before we have 50 days before the football season starts, we're going to break down each division. So today we're doing the AFC West, and in my opinion, West is best. They had a lot of off-season moves that came up this year. I mean,
this one's crazy, man.
This one's going to be crazy. We're going to rank them. We're going to show you our rankings, and some of y'all might be surprised, but we're super happy. One of Mr. Zizzy's friends over there brought up this idea, and we loved it. So we're going to take it and absolutely run with it. So, Yank, how would you like to go about it? Do you want to start at the bottom of who you think is going to be the worst AFC West team, or are we going to start?
I don't know. Do we want to start with these hot takes already? Okay. Yeah, I think we should just start from the bottom and work our way up. Yeah.
All right. Now, Yank, here it comes. Bronco country, let's ride. Yeah, you're going to ride to the bottom of the AFC West. All right. So, I mean, just what I started off with, the story of the offseason is you got your quarterback. They said they were one quarterback away from being a great playoff team. They went and got let Russ cook. All right. He's got a new team. He's got He's got Jerry Jeudy and whatnot, and Cortland Sutton and one other star on their team. But that's nothing comparable to the other receivers. Huh?
Javonte?
Yes, Javonte. Yeah, my bad.
Javonte's real.
I personally like Jerry Jeudy more. But let's see here. The experts said they were the one quarterback away, and they went 6-8 last year when Russell Wilson played for the Seahawks. I understand he was injured when he was playing. He was playing on bad body. 6-8 for Russ last year. He only threw for 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's 222 yards per game, Yank. And this is your savior that's going to come propel you to the top of the AFC West? No, not a chance. Because your receivers, you're telling me that Javonte, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton are better than DK Metcalf and Ty Lockett? You're wrong. All right, that is one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. Look at you're telling me.
Ty Lockett always hurt.
I'm just saying. That's where my reason I'm putting them down there is there's offense that they're so-called is going to propel them to the top. Isn't. They're still going to struggle against these teams. Their defense is still going to be great, but you might win a few more games. I have them going 8-9 this year. I broke down their entire schedule, but that's my first initial takes on why the Broncos are going to be the 4 seed. You can tell me where your Broncos or the Broncos are going to be on your list.
The Broncos for me, they're not on the bottom. That's for sure.
They're on the bottom.
They're not. They are not. Broncos country, let's ride. For me, honestly, I have them second in the division and like battling for the top. I'm dead. I'm serious. So when you're looking at the team around him, yes, I know you want to bring up DK and Ty Lockett in Seattle. Please tell me anybody else on that team, pretty much, period.
For who? Seattle?
Yeah.
They have Gerald Everett. Their tight end is pretty solid. I know they don't have a running game. I understand they don't have a good running game.
They have no running game. They have no offensive line. That man was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league for the last few seasons. On top of that, you're looking at a defense that has been severely depleted since the Legion of Boom days. Like, he does not have that same defense. There's nobody really there that have been stopping anybody these last few seasons. It's just a complete upgrade in my mind. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy. You're talking about Tim Patrick. You're talking about Cortland Sutton. You're talking about Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, who re-signed in the backfield. An offensive line that is honestly one of the best in football. A defense that has been championship ready for 2 years. Tell me where there really is a weakness. This is I think it's the Tom Brady effect. I think that you leave your team that you've been with since you were drafted. You have newfound energy, new teammates. Like, you're ready to go, prove a point. Who cares if he's Mr. Nice Guy? Who cares? I love the fact that he's embracing the fact that people think the whole Broncos country, let's ride thing is funny. Like, I love that he's embracing that. He's the guy, and he's going to come in. I think he's going to have a great year, and I think he's going to propel the Broncos to the playoffs and have a very good chance of winning this conference. He was even saying in his interviews, a couple days ago, he's talking championship. He's dropping the championship comment already. They have expectations. I like it.
I didn't know there's a championship for 4th place, but Yank.
Oh my goodness!
Blindsided by these receivers. These 3 receivers aren't anything great. I understand Drew Lock is a very mediocre, probably bottom, tier of quarterbacks. I get that. I know that
exactly my point, though. That's who Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton have been catching from. Now you get Russell Wilson. I think Jerry Jeudy is not going to be way better.
He was a losing quarterback last year. With still a very solid defense, very
solid. They didn't have a quarterback.
They have a new coaching staff here this year. With I think the OC from Green Bay.
They have last year, Teddy and Drew.
Yeah, they had a quarterback battle. But Yank, I understand the 3rd best defense in the ranked in PFF last year, Pro Football Reference. I went to a different site for this. But 3rd best, that's awesome, right? I love that they have Surtain, Simmons, Ronald Darby, Kareem Jackson. That's awesome. But their interior D line is going to hurt them. So now against these stud passing teams, their D line is the worst part of their defense. So that means the running game is going to be a little bit better for all these other teams. Okay. Now let's talk about these other teams in their conference. You got to play these teams twice. You're telling me I understand they're going to split. My big thing is AFC West is going to split right down the middle. They're going to split each game. Justin Herbert's better than Russell Wilson. Patrick Mahomes is better than Russell Wilson. Derek Carr has better weapons than Russell Wilson. So Derek Carr is going to have a better season. All 3 of your quarterbacks in your same division are going to be better than you. So how is this team going to go from second when they can't even take the wins out of their own conference, out of their own division?
Because you tell me, a 500 football team with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater as their quarterback.
They were
And Teddy
7-10.
Bridgewater, there's not really a knock against him. I think he could have been. He's one of the biggest could have beens in the NFL ever, but he got completely derailed by injuries. I'm just saying, for them to basically be a 500 team with them interchanging at quarterback and them having injury issues and all that, it's the same exact thing that we talked about with Tampa. Tampa was a 500 football team with Jameis
They
Winston
went and
throwing
got the
3
greatest player of
interceptions.
all time. You can't write.
I'm just saying, you're still throwing. He still was a 30 touchdown throwing quarterback. He throws 30 interceptions. You bring in just one person who doesn't throw the interceptions.
They brought in the GOAT.
See the difference. I get the go. I get that. It's not. I'm not saying Russell Wilson is Tom Brady, but it's a comparable situation because this is such an upgrade for them at quarterback. And with the newfound energy and Russell Wilson having something to prove coming off of his injury last year, I think I love the underdog story, and this is the team that's probably talked about the least right now out of the division.
No, they are 100%. Yeah, it's just at the end of the day, I already made the quarterback comparisons. And don't get me wrong, I love their defense, like I already told you. Josie Jewell, the Iowa stud, is at their linebacker. Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory all on their defense as well. I understand their defense is great, but they're playing against some of the best quarterbacks in the game of football. 2 of them in probably the top, I'll say 8th. I'll put Justin Herbert at 8th best quarterback in the league right now. And a lot of people might put him in top 5 and say he's an MVP candidate. I don't think so yet. But just the big key takeaways, Yank, I talked about the things I liked and I disliked about this team, is the losses they're going to have, their out-of-division games are tough. They're not beating the Ravens this year. They're not beating the Cardinals. They're not beating the Rams. They're not beating the Colts. They're not beating the 49ers. That's 5 losses right there, according to my 9 losses. And then they're splitting with every other team. I just don't think they'll win these big-time games against these really good teams. I mean, obviously they're playing the Texans, the Seahawks, the Jets, Jaguars. They're going to win all those. Week 1, they play the Seahawks. They're blowing them out of the water. Like, I got you on that. But, my key takeaways, mark it down. Russ is everything for this team, and he's got to make these receivers better than what he had in Seattle.
I just don't see how they don't improve. I just don't.
The defense up front is going to struggle, and teams are going to be able to run against it. And my last one is the out-of-division games are going to be losses. The tough like, key matchups they're going to lose. That's why they are number 4.
I mean, I don't know, man. They were coming in and playing teams with backup quarterbacks and still had a competitive advantage in most of their games and they were in most of their games last year, even the ones that they lost. I just think this Russell Wilson move puts him over the edge. And like I said, it's an underdog story. Not enough people talking about him. So you have them at 4.
You put them in the AFC South, they might be number 1 or 2. You put them in the AFC East,
they put them in almost any other division. They probably a number 1 or 2. So why not be a 2 here? I like the underdog story for once. I know it's going to be. I feel like I'm being hypocritical of some of my previous comments here in a second, but well.
All righty. Now, Yank, we're going to take your number 4, your 4th place. We already talked about your second, that being the Broncos. Who is going to be at the bottom for the AFC West? You better not say it. I think you're going to go somewhere, and I really don't like it.
Oh, man. To me, it's a toss-up in 3 and 4 because I really don't know. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the worst team in the division. Yeah.
You're lucky I'm stuck in my office here.
I'm sure you would have got out, but I swear. And it has nothing. It's the hardest thing in the world. It's like, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to doubt the greatest quarterback talent in the league. And it's sad to say it, but it's not that I'm doubting him. I'm just doubting the rest of the team around him. I really am. He's got him. He's got Travis Kelce, and it's pretty much all.
The second best tight end in the league.
Okay. And I'll wait. I don't know. I just really do not. I mean, them losing Tyreek is going to be a big hit on them, and it will hinder Patrick Mahomes in a way. And I'm not saying that he won't have the same scramble ability, won't be able to make the same plays, but there's a lot of times where he is in trouble. and they get into a scramble drill, it is Tyreek Hill that is the recipient of that pass. It's going to somehow show up this season that he was a big part of that offense. And I mean, I just don't like the defense. Plain and simple. I think that's what exposed them. I think that's what exposed them last year early in the season. And even though they tightened stuff up, I felt that was more of Patrick Mahomes understanding NFL defense. I mean, he was talking about going into last season. He was still learning how to read a defense. We saw once he figured it out because people were starting to play them differently and being able to take away all those bombs over the top. That once he started figuring it out and playing the pick and pop game, all of a sudden the Chiefs went on that crazy run to end the season and they start dominating again. They're back in the AFC divisional playoffs. They have the greatest game of all time against the Bills, and he drives down in 13 seconds. It's not Patrick Mahomes that I doubt. He will be one of the best quarterbacks in the league again this year, and he will probably make these receivers that are not as big of a name anymore much better than what they are capable of. But I don't like the defense other than Tyrann Mathieu. I don't like it. I just don't know what else they really are going to offer on that side of the ball, and I think it's going to hinder them down the road. I don't think that the rest of the teams in the division are scared of them anymore. I think they're all just as ready to win a championship, and they're all tired of seeing the Chiefs at the top. So these guys are going to get the best games from these opponents every single time they go out on the field, and it's the same thing for the rest of the league. Everybody loves to prove that they're better than the best, and what's better than beating Patrick Mahomes?
Mr. Zizzy. That might have been the absolute worst take ever on this podcast.
I don't think so.
The worst in the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, who battled with the Buffalo Bills, who lost to in the AFC Championship. Yank. This is the worst take you've ever had. Our expertise status probably just dropped a level. Our IQ of this podcast has dropped a little bit by you putting that into the podcast streams.
And I know it goes against my whole past, you got to beat the best to be the best. It's always that way. But
Patty Mahomes, I understand. They're my number 2 team in the AFC West. Patty Mahomes had a down year. They went 12-5. They were the second seed gang for a down year. Okay, he had 4,800 yards passing, 37 touchdowns. I understand he had more interceptions this year. That's the most he's thrown. He still was a Pro Bowler, 66 completion percentage, 284 yards per game. His second lowest. I understand that. So now he has that chip on his shoulder. He's like, oh, we didn't ball out last year. I got to go. And everyone's hyping up Tyreek. Everyone said that it was Tyreek Hill's team. They just went and got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to be great, and Valdez-Scantling. I think those two combined are going to be right up there. Not better than Tyreek Hill. I understand that. But 2 more weapons to add to your arsenal, I think they're going to be okay with these 2 new guys. And Patty Mahomes is going to tell them exactly what they need. Valdez-Scantling's fast. I understand the drops. That was the big thing. I mean, back in the Super Bowl when they played against Tom Brady, the drops when he's throwing balls almost hitting the ground. A lot of drops.
There's nothing against Patrick Mahomes. I will never say anything negative against Patrick Mahomes.
And they did get their O-line. Their O-line is better, but I understand they lost Austin Blythe, their center. I mean, that was kind of their key core piece. And it might be a down year for the defense too. I understand that, but their D-line is going to be strong, so teams aren't going to be able to run, so they're going to have to pass. I understand the secondary was a little rough last year. That's why some of those losses. I have them going 11-6. I think it's going to be one more loss. 1 game. But these other 2 guys are going to make up for it. I just can't believe that you're going to bet against a MVP candidate.
I mean, if you really want me, I think it's more so me trying to make a splash and a statement here on early Saturday morning. I could easily put them at 3. And it's just a complete no, and I could easily put them at 1 even just to say you got to beat the best, and they haven't necessarily proven that they've fallen off 100%. And we don't know what they're going to be with Tyreek Hill gone. I still expect them to be a good team. I still expect them to be a tough out in general. I just am looking inside the division. I mean, 4, probably steep, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to make a splash.
Things come around for season 3. Well, I'm making sure I'm starring this episode for it. But so fast. I watched him play against the Bears twice last year, and he's actually kind of decent. I hate to admit that because I hate admitting that the Green Bay Packers are good, right? So Scantling is still great. He still can propel this offense to help them out.
He'll be fine. I think he'll make. I mean, he's going from Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he'll not have like much of a drop off.
One Hall of Famer to the next Hall of Famer.
Jeez, we ain't gonna start that whole thing.
But
it's not. It's because I look at all the other teams in the division and I compare the entire team because I believe. I mean, that's what just won the championship last year was defense. Aaron Donald making the final play against Joe Burrow to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's what won at the end of the day. So when I look at all the teams in the division, Broncos have a better defense. The Chargers have a much better defense. The Raiders are questionable with the Chiefs. So when I look at your 3 and 4, that's why I'm going to have the Raiders at number 3 because I don't look at their defense and it doesn't anything that they have on that side of the ball doesn't necessarily scare me or make me think they can really, really stop some people. I watched a lot of their games last year. There was games where they were giving up 25 plus points all the time. But their offense is going to be absolutely scary. And I think that their weapons are much better than what the Chiefs have currently. And Derek Carr used to be an MVP candidate with a worse team. When he was on that 12-4 Raiders team, if he hadn't got hurt at the end of the year, he wins MVP. He wins MVP. So he has the talent. He has the skill. And now you're going to give him Devontae Adams, who's going to have to get double teamed, but now who you can't cover Hunter Renfrow, who's a 100-catch, 1,000-yard receiver. And now you can't cover Darren Waller, who is an absolute unit at tight end. And they have a decent line with Josh Jacobs, who isn't the biggest name back there, but he runs hard every year. He plays well. So I really like that offense, and that's where I felt like it's a toss-up. I hate putting them at 4, but I also love it because, I mean, I'm Zizzy, baby. Let's go. Let's run.
Well, that's your worst take of all time, I feel like. And my thing is they're going to beat the 49ers. They're going to beat the Titans, Jaguars, Texans, Seahawks, Cardinals, Raiders at least once. So we're already sitting at 8 to 7 wins right there. So now all they got to do is win 4 more of those close one divisions. So if they beat their division once, boom, there's 3 wins. Now we're talking in that 10 to 11 phase winning. You know, obviously I think they're going to lose to the Bucks, the Rams, like Bills, like those really, really good teams. So they do have a harder schedule, but they also have a lot of these teams that it's a markup W. I still think you're blasphemous for it. I guess at the end of the day,
it's going to be a very interesting to see. This is the toughest division in football.
No, 100%. That's why we started with it. And I'll just give you my key takeaways. I mean, if the defense can hold their own and give up less than 24 points, Patrick Mahomes is going to go score you 28. He's going to get you 4 touchdowns. Defense has to hold any team under 24, and that's a lot to ask.
You can pay more attention to Kelsey. He's not as explosive without Tyree. We don't know yet.
I mean, they still have Chris Jones and Frank Clark on their D-line. Patrick Mahomes needs to be great. He needs to have an efficient year, and efficient is going to make up for those defense at giving up 24 points. If he be efficient, the Kansas City Chiefs are fine. He's an MVP caliber quarterback. And lastly, the O-line has to hold their own, and the receivers don't drop the balls. If you don't drop the balls, Patrick Mahomes is going to put it on your chest or anywhere in your catching.
We saw that in that Super Bowl. He's throwing horizontal when he's out there doing that.
Those are my key takeaways, but it is blasphemous. You have them at number 4. I have them at number 2. So, Yank, we got 2 teams to talk about. Now, I think the number 1, I know who your number 1 is going to be, so we're going to go on the opposite side. Who is your number 3?
Oh, I just said it, I think, a little bit ago, but it's again, when I look at teams, I have to say the complete team, and so I have the Raiders at number 3. We have the Raiders at number 3. Simply just because, like I said, I think Derek Carr was an MVP candidate before he had these good weapons, before he had, and I think that there's a solid culture with the team itself. Last year, they went through a whole lot of craziness with people getting in trouble with law enforcement, with the whole Henry Ruggs situation, to coaching turmoil with, can't even remember. What was the coach's name?
John Gruden.
Yes, thank you. Wow. Can't remember Gruden.
Morning. You're good.
All right. It's early morning. But yeah, with the whole turmoil with John Gruden and then not being able to, and then having an interim coach all year. Now you have a new coaching change. I get that. But the new coach is Josh McDaniels. It's coming from Patriot culture. He's got a second chance. We already know he's an offensive genius. You're going to give an offensive genius Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow, and Derek Carr to play with. Okay. Way more than what he had with Mac Jones and the wide receivers in New England. Just going to throw that out there. So I think their offense is going to be absolutely electric. Might be the best in the division. But the defense, again, is something that worries me. I don't know if they made enough acquisitions in this offseason to really bolster it much. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I love Max out there, honestly, off the end. I mean, we know he can ball as a D end, but and secondary worries me. And that's why I'm going to be so big on the team that's number 1.
I'm also at number 3. I agree with a lot of those takes. Like Derek Carr was an MVP caliber quarterback back a few years ago, like 2018, granted it was about
it wasn't that long ago.
But he also just got one of his best buddies, one of the best weapons in the NFL, and I hate admitting that. Like I said, I hate admitting the green team. We don't like talking about them. Devontae Adams had 1,500 yards last year for 11 touchdowns. He's a top 2 receiver in the league. And now he loves to play big money. He's been playing with his best friend. Like they already got that team chemistry down. And now
they had over 30 touchdowns together in college. Like people think like, oh, it's a brand new thing. They got to figure it out. They know.
And then Hunter Renfrow, one of the most saucy route runners ever, had
1,000 baby
and 9 touchdowns. They now have a top duo receiving core in the NFL. I mean, they're probably top 4 receiving duo.
They're top 5 offense in the NFL this year. I'm telling you.
You have Waller at their tight end. You have Josh Jacobs. So their offense is going to be A-okay. They're going to be the leading force. They'll probably put up, Patrick Mahomes numbers, 28 to 30 points a game. And it's going to be good luck game planning. If you're a defense coordinator, good luck game planning against that. But the thing that's going to limit them to be number 3, they might be a 6th seed or the 7th seed, Yank. I will give you that. They might still make the playoffs. 3 teams out of the AFC West, and this is the Raiders. They might be 10-7.
I wouldn't even be surprised if all 4 somehow managed to make it.
I mean, I totally get that. And I think they're gonna hold their own, and they might be a playoff team. Like that's not too crazy to discuss about it. I mean, you still have a 23 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. You have to be more efficient if you're Derek Carr, which with Devontae Adams, I think you will be. 4,800 yards. Awesome. Now, the 2 things that are going to propel them down to the number 3, the new coaching changes. They had all the drama, like you said, with the arrests, with the whole coaching changes. They still got to get this coach. I know Josh Daniels.
But you saw through all that they could stick together and actually they started winning games.
That's why they're still going to be
on that win streak. That's what I'm saying. There is a culture there, and bringing then the Patriots winning culture with Josh McDaniels. I think there's probably something brewing in a positive manner rather than that actually negatively impacting them.
And yeah, but now, so that's one of my and then we talk about the defense, which you already referenced. Max Crosby, one of my favorite defenders in the league. The whole tattoo sleeve, it's awesome, right? He's a stud. They also got Chandler Jones. You remember Chandler Jones?
That's true. I forgot that they made that trade. So their D-line is real.
So teams are going to have to pass. They already know that going into it. But their secondary, Yank.
Yeah, their secondary kills me, though.
Yank, this secondary is not very good in my eyes. They have Trayvon Mullen. He had 1 interception last year. They have Trayvon Moehrig, 1 interception this year. They have Rock Yao-Sin, who only had 8 pass deflections. Nothing too great. He had no interceptions. And then they got this, he was from the Colts, and they got Davini Diablo. He only had 28 tackles. Do any of those names ring a bell? Do any of those names make you scared as somebody does quarterback?
Their secondary is what holds them back.
And no disrespect to them. They're great. They're starting an NFL team way better than we ever will be, right? But if we're referencing the grades, if we're trying to compare these amazing teams who are in the AFC West, you're at the bottom. You're towards down there. Now that D-line and that stud offense is going to get you wins. There's going to be some Sundays that
it's if the Chiefs had hung on to Emmanuel Ogbah, which welcome to the Fins, baby. If they had hung on to him and they didn't have more than just Tyrann Mathieu, they're still starting Reed Sorensen out there, which has been a liability for half of the last 2 seasons. He shows up in the playoffs somehow, but everything else is just it's scary. But I mean, stuff like that, man. It's just it makes it hard to believe that their defense can hold up to championship expectations when you have other teams in the division like the Broncos and the Chargers, who it both seems like we have at number 1 coming into this.
I mean, yeah, that's my thing. My last thing about the Raiders, I agree that they're going to be number 3 there. I think they're still going to be a playoff team at that number 3, and they're going to start out 0-3, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Raiders that bad," but they still got to get into the thing. They play the Chargers, Cardinals, Titans. Pretty rough stretch, and then I think they come home to Kansas City. They beat Kansas City, and then the stretch of Texans, Saints, Jaguars, Seahawks. There's 4 wins. Now you're moving and grooving. They're going to put a streak to propel them back into the playoffs. And they also play the Patriots. Dumb, I think, for the Raiders. That the other teams don't play the Patriots. And, they also do play the Steelers. That's my kind of toss-up game for them. That's going to either propel them to a playoff team or not. And we know the Steelers, we'll talk about them in another episode, but, they're kind of up and down right now, too. They don't have this stud of an offense that the Raiders do. So I have them at 10-7. The key takeaways is the offense is going to flow great. Defense, just don't give up 40 points and you should be 30 points and you should be fine. Secondary is going to be the Achilles heel of this team, and less drama is going to lead to more success. And I think the Raiders have that now with a new coaching staff.
I agree. I think again, if anyone really wanted to plug and play with this division, you can. It's
100%.
just a matter of where are you gonna put it all together, and you're gonna do it on a consistent basis. So there is some new changes in Oakland, which is not Oakland. Jeez, I'm so used to
Las
Oakland
Vegas.
Raiders.
I know.
Las Vegas Raiders. But yeah, there's a lot of changes there, so that's probably the only reason why you have them at 3. Same here, but outside of that, they could easily propel themselves to a better than 10-7 record. We'll see what happens.
Now, I'm glad we agree on a number 1. And I thought this was going to be a hot take, but Yank.
No, I mean, there's one worry that I have with them, but 2 worries, but I still, when you look at it on paper, it looks good.
Watch out. Los Angeles Superchargers bolt up Los Angeles.
The roomies, fresh pulled
Now,
pork.
oh yeah. Shout out the roomies there. Now, I typically start out with quarterbacks as an upgrade, but my Chicago Bears traded Khalil Mack, which I said in previous episodes, we got to get rid of him. I think we should have got more for Khalil Mack, but here we are. But Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on opposite sides is going to be dangerous. Khalil Mack is no longer the number 1. He is no longer the first name on your scouting report. It's Joey Bosa. So now Khalil Mack's not going to have less double teams. He's going to go against the better offensive linemen. Like if you're playing against the Bucks, Joey Bosa is going to go against Tristan. Khalil Mack's going to play against their other linemen. I think they're going to be fine in that aspect. Now, Joey Bosa, 7 forced fumbles, second in the league, 10.5 sacks. That's 13th in the league. And he's on the upside of Khalil Mack, who is now the Robin of this team. We talk about in the NBA, the Batman and the Robin. We have that on a defensive line. That's scary. Khalil Mack's still a top 12 defender in the league. At 12, though. I just can't bet against this team with those tremendous defense. And that's coming from an offensive guy like me. I mean, even their secondary, J.C. Jackson from New England, he was second individual interceptions. He's second in the NFL for interceptions, and now he's in part of their secondary who already has Derwin James, who's
nasty.
Yeah, he's one of the guys we love watching. This team is such a huge turnover creating defense. That's going to lead to W's. Turnovers equal W's. If you have less turnovers than, the other team, you're pretty much going to win the ball game. And that's going to be a difference for the Chargers. And Yank, we haven't even started talking about this offense. Herbert Sherbert, who's talked of MVP. I don't think it's MVP yet. I don't. But he's still going to be a great quarterback. He threw for 5,000 yards last year, Yank, more than Patrick Mahomes. He had 38 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. You got to make that more efficient. I understand that. Yeah, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. Bolt up, baby. I'm going to talk more about their offense, but I'm going to let you intervene because I can just go on and on. And I hate admitting
there's not really much to intervene about. You said when you talk about the Chargers, it's nothing really but positives. I mean, we can talk offense because you didn't talk about it as much, but you're looking at, like you said, Justin Herbert. I mean, since he's been drafted, has been a stud. He's absolutely a star in this league. He is going to be an MVP candidate. I don't know if he limits the interceptions, there's no ceiling for this guy. He will absolutely blow it out of the water when you have Mike Williams, who's now re-signed off of his extension. He's got his money. He's satisfied. They've got good chemistry, and that man is absolutely in love with the deep ball, and Herbert loves to throw it. So they'll go out there. That's another 1,000-yard receiver returning from last year. Obviously, we all know about Keenan Allen, the perennial stud. I mean, outside of years that he's been injured, he's a guaranteed 1,000-yard receiver, and he's unguardable.
Number one.
He's unguardable unless you put Derwin James on him in practice, apparently, because Derwin James is out there playing one-on-one, locking him up if anyone's seeing the practice film. But that man is another animal, and we get to see him in full action, fully healthy for the first time, really, this year. He's going to be insane. So,
what about the running game, Yank? What about their running game?
That's what I'm saying. You got Austin Eckler. You got Isaiah Spiller. I believe he was on the Bills before.
Yeah.
But he comes over. That's a great change of speed for a third down back or a receiving back. And then you get, obviously, like we talk about, Austin Eckler. He's an all down back. He can do anything. He can catch.
Best fantasy running back.
Yeah, he's a fantastic fantasy running back. They get Gerald Everett now as a tight end. That's another big body. So they're adding him in. So I mean, there's nothing really to talk about other than as long the O-line's just got to make sure they protect a little bit better, and you're good there. The offense is going to absolutely do their thing. Herbert will probably have another 5,000+ yard season, and I'd be looking at him for north of 40 touchdowns this year. He will be an MVP candidate. I know you might not be ready to say that, but I think he will be. Then, like you said, that defense, absolutely unreal. The Khalil Mack trade looking real nice right now. Got Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa on the other side, going to be absolutely tormenting these quarterbacks. And then, like you said, the secondary. We're talking. I mean, go to your.
I don't get excited for secondaries. I don't, but here I am.
But you have to, because we're talking Asante Samuel, and then on the other side, Justin Jackson. But then the main man of it all, Derwin James, who is a literal human Swiss Army knife. He can cover any receiver. He can cover any back out of the backfield. He can hit. He makes game-changing plays. God, I hope he stays healthy because I want to see him for a full season. He is a play maker. So they're a complete team. There's only two things that can stop them from winning this division. One is health, because God, it's the Chargers and they get hit by that injury bug every year. And two, it's Brandon Staley, their coach. I believe that this fourth down going for it every single time, I love it, but I hate it because sometimes it's like, just kick the damn ball, man. Like you can't do it every time. And we saw what happened at the end of the year last year. You have one game to get in and you make that horrific timeout call mistake.
Yeah,
doing all that. I don't understand that. So prove it to me that you can't lose it for your team, because coaching is a big part of the game as well, and that's all got to be perfect come playoff time. So I still think that they're the best team, complete team.
I know they're going to be a 13-4. Watch out. I mean, Austin Eckler too had so many touchdowns. He had 8 receiving, 12 rushing. He was 911 yards rushing and then 600 yards receiving. Like, Eckler alone is a great back to help out your young quarterback for checkdowns to run the ball. So they're going to be a complete team. The other thing was he was sacked around, I think, 31 times, so that's kind of bad. But Justin Herbert's fast. He can get out of it. So the offensive line is going to be the
I wouldn't say fast. He's just a big boy that can move. He knows how to move.
I mean, he can get you a lot of touchdowns and whatnot.
Yeah,
and then I just think they are all the way back. They woke up feeling dangerous. The aggressive offensive mind by Staley I like it, and I think that's going to propel them to a win or two. And I think it's going to take a loss, but also, Yank, I mean, at the end of the day, let's check out their schedule, right? So we're splitting in the league. That's what in their division. They play the Jaguars, Texans, we've talked about. They play the Browns, but we don't know if Deshaun Watson will be back by then. They play the Seahawks. They play the Falcons, which that's a great team that no one else in your division plays to play. Play the Falcons. They play the Dolphins, which I think they're beating your Fins. Sorry, I think you should too. And then they play the Colts. The only teams that I think are going to slow them down are the Cardinals, Chiefs, Raiders, and Rams. And those are teams that are okay. If you're going to lose to those teams, I think you're going to be in a pretty good situation. Now, my last closing remarks about this powerhouse Chargers team is it's all about the defense for this team. And they have the best one in the NFL on paper. That's going to make them be successful. Key takeaway 1. The wide receiver duo is fantastic, and Herbert Sherbert is money. So like that combination is going to be perfect for your takeaway. And then they have an easier schedule. They have a promising young future, and this is the year to really propel them to a AFC championship type team. Watch it, see it happen. I'm hyping up the Chargers this year. Sorry, Cheyenne, I don't like agreeing with you, but this year, you know what? Maybe we can rock some Charger gear.
Hey, person of the week, man. What up? We got to shout you out a couple times this episode, but hey, bolts up, baby. I like it. Fins up, bolts up. I like it.
Now, that is our recap of the division. Yank has Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, and the Chiefs. I have the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Broncos. Now, we would love to hear what your key takeaways or your prediction of the AFC West, because West is best here. Shout us out on the Twitter, reply to it, all that kind of jazz. But, Yank, is there any other closing remarks from a very fun and upbeat episode?
Honestly, it just scares me when we start reading out the schedules because it just pick'ems are going to be rough this year. They're going to be rough.
You're a two-time All-American.
Two-time All-American, but I ain't never won the damn thing. So
I haven't either, but I do have the most wins in pick'em history. Past 2 years.
Barely.
Barely.
But all right, yeah, no. Other than that, I just the best AFC West is the best division of football. It's going to be absolutely electric. Any of those teams could be anywhere.
Yep.
But the Chiefs better prove it.
Oh yeah. All right, and my last closing hot take here, Yank, is Austin Eckler might be my second round, first round running back in fantasy picked. I might have just gave away a lot of.
That's not really like
that's
a
hot
surprise, though. That's not really.
I know,
like
but like I might tell people my strategy here. But hyping up the Chargers, bolt up.
He's baiting you.
Chargers.
All righty. Well, if you're talking sports, it's the matchup. Mickey here with Zizzy. Yeah, we cutting it up. Just a couple athletic enthusiasts. You know what it is, the Mickey Zizzy Podcast. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Peace.